How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel where today we are once again in Dark Souls. A while back I had an idea and I figured now was the time to start that idea. I wanted to acquire and max out every single possible weapon in Dark Souls in one playthrough. I think this is one of those things that fits right on the line between fun and stupid, and I think those make for the best types of Dark Souls videos. So today that's what we're going to do. We are going to answer the question, just how long does it take to max out every single weapon in Dark Souls? The first step in our process is to figure out exactly how many weapons of each upgrade path do we need to acquire and how many materials we need to max out all of those weapons, either to plus 15 for the normal upgrade path or plus 5 for the Twinkling, Demon, and Dragon paths. There are a total of 71 weapons that follow the normal upgrade path, 23 weapons that follow the Twinkling Titanite path, 14 that follow the Demon Titanite path, 8 that follow the Dragon Scale path, 21 weapons that require no upgrades to max out. These are generally these catalysts and talismans. However, there are 2 weapons, the Crystal Sword and the Crystal Greatsword, that also do not have an upgrade path, as whenever you purchase them, they are at the maximum upgrade level. And then, of course, the Pyromancy Flame, which only requires souls to max out. To max out a normal weapon, you need 9 regular Titanite shards, 9 large Titanite shards, 7 Titanite chunks, and a Titanite slab. For Twinkling Titanite weapons, you need 10 per weapon, and the same follows for both the Demon and Dragon Scale weapons as well. This, in combination with the Ascendancy path, which generally requires souls, as well as the total upgrade cost for your Pyromancy Flame, means that you're going to be spending well over 1 million total souls to max out every single weapon in the game. Now that we understand what we're getting into, the first step in our journey is picking our starting class. I went ahead with the Thief so that I could have the Master Key and pick the Black Fire Bombs as my burial gift. Every single class starts off with the straight sword hilt, so that is in our possession. You'll see at the top right of the screen I have a counter for how many weapons I have and how many I have maxed out. Do note that this is not always entirely accurate for every single video segment that I'm going to show, as I didn't always update it after I acquired every weapon, but just know that it's roughly the right amount. Using those fire bombs, we take out the Asylum Demon for the Demon's Great Hammer, and we pick up the Bandit's Knife, which is the starting weapon for the Thief. In Firelink, we pick up the Morning Star and Talisman, the Zweihander from the Graveyard. We purchase the Short Bow from the Undead Merchant, get a Light Crossbow from a drop, same with the Short Sword, and the Battle Axe. And when I say every weapon, yes, that means every weapon. So unfortunately, we do have to put down Solaire for both the Sunlight Straight Sword and Sunlight Talisman. That short bow that we purchased just a while ago is going to come in handy now as we take out the Hellkite Drake's tail for the Drake Sword. We also pick up the Claymore from the bridge, the Halberd on the approach to the church. Use our Master Key to go down and get the Sorcerer's Catalyst. We get a Longsword drop, the Estoc from the New Londo Ruins, a Thorlund Talisman from Petrus, and I got the Gargoyle Tail Axe from one of my fights, although I forgot to record the footage of me getting it. We make a couple of more purchases. We get Velka's Talisman from Oswald, the Broadsword, Bastard Sword, Warpick, Cistus, and Pike from Andre. Pick up the Longbow from Darkroot Garden. Make a quick stop to the depths so we can pick up the Large Ember and free Laurentius. Also purchase the Crystal Straight Sword and Crystal Greatsword from Domnall. And take a brief second to use the Crystal Straight Sword to go ahead and get the tail cut from the Gaping Dragon and acquire the Dragon King Great Axe. Continuing down into Blighttown, we pick up the Heavy Crossbow, the Iato, a Broken Straight Sword, a Whip, a Falchion, the Butcher Knife from the Invasion, the Great Club, and then we go ahead and take down Quelaag for one of the few bosses in this run that we're going to need multiple copies of their soul for ascendancy into 2 different boss weapons. On our way back up from Blighttown, we stop off, pick up the Tin Banishment Talisman, and because Rhea is back at Firelink, we can go ahead and cut her down to pick up the Ivory Talisman, as there's no reason to let her quest progress out. Go back to the Undead Parish to drop off the Large Ember with Andre, and it's into Sen's Fortress, where we pick up the Scythe and an early Titanite catch pull from a Titanite demon. We also make sure to pick up the Gold Covetous Serpent Ring, which is going to be becoming very important in the near future when we have to start grinding for weapons and upgrade material drops. Still not done in Sens, we pick up the Shotel, the Great Axe, Ricard's Rapier. Go ahead and buy the Great Sword from the Crestfallen Merchant. Get the Sniper Crossbolts, and we make sure that we send Logan back to Firelink Shrine for later. There wasn't a real particular reason to do this, but I decided to go back to Firelink Shrine so that I could make use of Power Within for the Iron Golem fight, which again is one of the boss souls that we're going to need multiple copies of. And we pick up a couple of different weapons in Anorlando, the Gargoyle's Halberd and the Occult Club. We are going to revert the club back to the normal upgrade path and really address it as we go into the Ornstein and Smo fight. But for this video specifically, I decided to get every weapon on the normal upgrade path. I know that you could do a variety of different upgrade paths using the red, white, and blue Titanite slabs, but I figured that it's what I wanted to do, and you're going to see why it doesn't really make a huge difference in terms of which upgrade path we go on, as going for the normal plus 15 is generally going to be the fastest if you want to max out every single weapon. With the Lord Vessel in hand, my next stop was going to be down into the Catacombs, where we pick up the Lucerne, the Scimitar, the Great Scythe, although we are going to ascend this one, so we're going to have to pick up another copy in New Game Plus. Pick up our first Covenant weapon in the Gravelord Sword, find the Dark Moon Seance Ring, get the Mace, and then we go ahead and fight Pinwheel. Before heading back to farm for souvenirs of reprisal, I wanted to go and get the bonfire in the Tomb of the Giants, and I actually got the Black Knight Halberd from the Tomb of the Giants Black Knight down here, and also picked up the Murakumo. Those two weapons in hand, we go back, join the Blades of the Dark Moon, but I also made a quick stop and picked up the Titanite Slab, one of the 3 guaranteed drops that you can get in any new game cycle from the Stray Demon back at Firelink. We also got the Black Knight Sword from one of the Black Knights in the area, and it's back into Anorlando. We go get a Painting Guardian Sword from the Painting Guardians so that we can go into the Painted World. In the Painted World, we have to trigger the invasion to get the Notched Whip. We got to go find Velka's Rapier, get a Spear, and then farm for souvenirs of reprisal. Want to make sure we get 10 of these so that we can get the Dark Moon Talisman in just a short bit. But we have to face off against Priscilla, making sure to get the tail cut and getting her soul. With those 10 souvenirs in hand, we pick up the Dark Moon Talisman and then immediately break our covenant to go ahead and face off against Gwendolyn, which is another boss that we're going to need multiple copies of his soul for this run. We have a couple more errands to run in Anorlando that includes picking up the Dragon Slayer Greatbow and getting a drop from the demons, the Demon Spear. Then it is on towards Sif. On the way, we join the Forest Hunter Covenant for some purchases later. Go ahead and take out Sif for Sif's soul, and while I'm in Darkroot, I also went ahead and took down the Moonlight Butterfly. And now that we are in the Forest Hunter Covenant, I decided to go back down to Blighttown. First, we picked up a pickaxe from farming, and then it is over to Shiva, where we buy the Flamberge, the Stone Greatsword, the Demon Great Axe, Ujikatana, Demon Great Machete, and Claws. I also remembered that I could go purchase some more weapons from the Undead Male Merchant. I got the Dagger, the Rapier, the Hand Axe, the Reinforced Club. Back to Darkroot, where we pick up the Black Bow of Ferris. And then now that we have Sif's soul, we can head down into New Londo, where we pick up the Parrying Dagger, get the Jagged Ghost Blade from a drop, and go talk to Ingward for the key to the seal. Because we have not talked to Framp yet, after we take down the 4 kings, we can join the Dark Wraith Covenant, and we can grind up for some humanity. But first we get the Dark Hand, and we're going to get a lot of those later, so be on the lookout for just how many we're going to get. But we're going to have to grind up some humanity. And we're going to go down into the depths to farm some rats. On our way, however, we do pick up the Great Axe, and then it's over to the humanity farm. We need 30 of these bad boys to get the Dark Sword. And because the 4 kings are dead, we can also go ahead and pick up Beatrice's Catalyst. Here in the Valley of the Drakes, we can also pick up the Astora Straight Sword, and then it's down into the Tomb of the Giants. We need to trigger the Paladin Leroy Invasion to pick up the Grant. And because we spent a lot of humanity in the Dark Wraith Covenant, we need to do some more farming. Luckily, before Nito, you can farm the baby skeletons. They respawn infinitely whenever you're in the water, and they're a good source of farming humanity. Once we have 10 in hand, we can go face yet another Lord Soulholder in Grave Lord Nito, which will unlock patches back at Firelink, and we can purchase both the Crescent Axe and the Canvas Talisman from him. I also got the Wing Spear somewhere along the way, but apparently I deleted that footage. It's just one weapon though, so whatever. We need to go head back to Blighttown again, this time to go ahead and join the Daughters of Chaos Covenant, which will allow us to unlock a shortcut in just a brief second. We can take on Ceaseless Discharge, which allows us to go further into the Demon Runes to trigger our first Kirk invasion. Didn't realize this at the time, but apparently you have to leave the Gaping Dragon Line to trigger the invasion in the depths. We do need his sword. We don't get it this first time. So instead, we continue to track on, take down the Demon Fire Sage, and get the Demon's Catalyst. I figured I was getting close to the end game and farming opportunities, so I decided to go back to Anorlando, purchase the Giant's Halberd, and level up the Black Knight Halberd to +5. This is technically our 3rd maxed out weapon. The other 2 being the Crystal Sword and Crystal Greatsword, but of course those cannot be upgraded. So I figured let's go with the speedrun weapon of choice as our first +5. We go ahead and get to +2 in the Daughters of Covenant Chaos to unlock the shortcut in Los Izalith, and that allows us to go and farm the Titanite Demon on the way to the Bed of Chaos. This is a bit of an annoying fight considering the Titanite demons have really high defenses and HP, and the run back is not the longest, but it's not the quickest either. We need to come back and do this a bunch. As we mentioned at the top, we need a ton of Demon Titanite. Luckily for us, he drops 2 every time he's killed and respawns infinitely, making this probably the easiest farm for materials in this entire run. I also figured that because we are racking up Demon Titanite, it's high time that we ascend some weapons into boss weapons, and we're going to make use of that Demon's Titanite very shortly. We get the Great Sword of Artorias, the cursed version, Quelaag's Fury Sword, the Golem Axe, Smo's Hammer, the Life Hunt Scythe, and the Tin Dark Moon Talisman. With all of that Demon Titanite, we then upgrade more weapons to +5. The Cursed Greatsword of Artorias, Quelaag's Fury Sword, the Grave Lord's Sword, the Golem Axe, Smo's Hammer, the Life Hunt Scythe. We also ascend a spear into the Moonlight Butterfly Horn, and we upgrade the Demon Spear as well. After we finally round out our Demon Titanite farm, as there's still a couple of weapons that we're going to have to go to New Game Plus to acquire, we go towards the Bed of Chaos. We take down the Daughter of Chaos outside, trigger the second Kirk invasion, and luckily we get the Barbed Straight Sword drop on this try. The Bed of Chaos was no issue, although I definitely forgot to talk to Quelana before I killed the Bed of Chaos, so we're going to have to wait to the next New Game Plus cycle to ascend our Pyromancy Flame. No big deal. We go ahead and farm for the large club and pick up the server, heading down to Ash Lake, and we're going to start getting some dragon weapons up to max, including the Dragon Greatsword, which we get from the Everlasting Dragon Covenant Giver. And then it is time for the farm of all farming, the Dragon Scales and the Dark Rays. The Drakes in the Valley of the Drakes actually have a pretty good drop rate. I think at max discovery it's about 20%, and with 6 Drakes you're going to average 1 to 2 scales every run. But the Dark Rays are something different. Let's talk about them. So there are 10 Dark Rays in New Londo that you can kill pretty easily on your run-throughs. They have 2 different item drop slots. they have upgrade materials that they can drop, and then they can drop the Dark Hand. But you can get one of the upgrade material drops alongside the Dark Hand. So if you get a chunk, for example, that same drop, you can get a Dark Hand. For the one chunk drop, that occurs at around 27%. Two chunks occurs at around 1%, and the Titanite slab, one of the rarest drops in the entire game, occurs at around 0.7%. The Dark Hands themselves are at around a 4% drop, and that's going to give a good indication once we finally finish this run as to how many Dark Rays I actually killed. If you are curious, write your guess in the comments if you'd like. I will go over that at the very end. But just keep in mind that for 10 Dark Rays, you're going to average around 2 to 3 chunks per run. You're going to average a slab once every 14 or 15 runs. And you're going to average a Dark Hand around 1 every 25-ish runs. To break up some of the monotony, I also did various tasks in between doing farming runs and other things, one of which includes trying to get the Ghost Blade drop, one of the rarest weapon drops. I think it actually has the second lowest drop rate, tied with a couple others. There's only one other weapon that has a 0.5% drop rate that we will have to go and get. But luckily for me, I actually got it on my third try on that Banshee that's kind of tucked away. While doing some runs, I actually get the first Titanite slab drop earlier than expected. I got it on my 6th or 7th run through. Wasn't exactly counting, but it was pretty early. Again, broke up some of the farming. I went and freed Dusk, bought the Ulasil Ivory Catalyst up to the Duke's Archives to pick up the Broken Pendant, take our Death to Seath. While we're in the archives, we go ahead, drop down, get the Avalon, and we want to make sure that we free Big Hat Logan from his cage. Before we finish out his quest, however, we need to go and kill Seath, which includes the tail cut. This is one of the more difficult tail cuts that people have trouble with. I actually got it fairly early in this run, but it certainly was annoying because Seath likes to turn around. Anyway, enough about diatribing about the Seath the Scaleless fight. Now that he's dead, we can go and talk to Logan using a lot of the souls that we have from the Dark Wraith farm, and we can clean out his stock. Once we do so, he will leave, and in his place, he will actually leave a chest, and we can pick up Logan's Catalyst, which I think is the first time I've ever actually picked up Logan's Catalyst in all my run-throughs. We also make use of our farming efforts, and we get the Channeler's Trident pretty early. I think this was my 4th or 5th run through. It's another weapon that has a 1% drop rate. Then we have to head back up to where we fought Seath originally, kill Logan after he's gone mad, and we pick up the Tin Catalyzation Catalyst. Now that we have the Broken Pendant, we can access the DLC. We get the tail cut from the Guardian. Go ahead and face Artorias, and unfortunately we need both his soul as well as the gold and silver tracers, so we have to take down Ciaran. Go ahead and take on Manus for his soul, after which we can ascend a catalyst up to the Manus Catalyst. And I figured while we are at the Giant Blacksmith, let's go ahead and get the Abyss Greatsword as well. For whatever reason, I decided to go ahead and farm for the Man-Certain Greatsword in between ascending the Abyss Greatsword and going and facing Calamite for the tail cut. I talked about Seath being one of the toughest ones. Well, I know the Obsidian Greatsword is probably the toughest one that people have trouble with in the game, but I actually did it pretty easily on this run. You just got to make sure that you're using any of the Scythe or Reaper class weapons. Those vertical swipes with the R1 attack are very good to use against Calamite. You can also pick up the slab from his arena, which is nice to have, but not super important, as we'll show in just a brief moment. And at this point, we've just basically got a lot of weapons to farm for in various locations. First, we're going to go ahead and farm for the Baldur Side Sword in the Undead Parish. Pick up the Mailbreaker, which I forgot to get, down in Lower Undead Burg. Back to Inerlando to pick up both the Silver Knight Straight Sword and Silver Knight Spear. Open up the Kiln of the First Flame to farm for the Black Knight Great Axe and Black Knight Greatsword. Talk to Goth after we have taken down Calamite for his Great Bow. And farm a couple of DLC weapons, the Stone Great Axe and the Four-Pronged Plow. Get a couple of stragglers that I missed in the partisan and the composite bow, and then we finally get the last weapon that we're going to acquire from farming in the run in the Ulicio Catalyst. So you may be asking yourself, are we just going to continuously kill Dark Rays over and over and over until we get all 71 Titanite slabs outside of the couple of ones that we can get as guaranteed drops? Well, my dear viewer, the answer is no. In the Great Hollow, there are 10 crystal lizards which have a 10% drop rate for Titanite slabs. I was curious, and the answer is yes. If you kill a crystal lizard and you do not get a drop that you're looking for, in this case the Titanite slab, what you can do is you can back up your save data before you kill the crystal lizard. If you don't get it, restore your save file, and then try again. Thanks to the crystal lizards having pretty easily to understand locations, you can do this relatively quickly. Now, the one downside of this is that it does take a little bit. I went through and killed all 9 crystal lizards outside of the one that I'm pretty sure I killed when my first trip down to Ash Lake. And it took me around 4 or 5 hours. I am playing on the computer, so it probably would take quite a bit longer if you're playing on console, not to mention needing like PS Plus to back up your save to the cloud. So just keep in mind that the final game time that we'll show at the very end of the video is a little bit deflated. And in actuality, you should add on a couple of hours every game cycle that we go through, and we're going to have to do this a couple of times, as this is by far the easiest way to get 10 additional Titanite slabs in just a couple of hours. As I continue to farm Titanite chunks to get all my weapons into that plus 10 or higher range, I grabbed myself another slab, and now it is time to pick up the 3 blacksmith hammers, unfortunately. Yes, we have to kill Andre, the giant blacksmith, and Vamos down in the depths to get all 3 of their hammers. Before we start to go on an upgrade spree, let's look at what we have in terms of Titanite slabs. We got 11 from the 2 guaranteed drops from Calamit's Arena and the Stray Demon, and 9 from the Crystal Lizards. So with 28 in our inventory, that means we've farmed 17 Titanite slabs from the Dark Rays. With those in hand, let's head down to New Londo to talk to the one remaining blacksmith and start upgrading a ton of weapons. We do the dagger, parrying dagger, bandit's knife, ghost blade, Priscilla's dagger, and dark silver tracer, the short sword, the long sword, the broadsword, the Baldur's Hide sword, the sunlight straight sword, the dark sword, the barbed straight sword, the silver knight straight sword, a storage sword, the drake sword, the broken straight sword, the straight sword hilt, the bastard sword, the claymore, the man serpent great sword, the flamberge, the black knight sword, stone great sword, moonlight great sword, obsidian great sword, the great sword, the abyss great sword, the Zweihander, the demon great machete, the dragon great sword, the scimitar, the falchion, the shotel, the painting guardian sword, the jagged ghost blade, the gold tracer, the murakumo, the server, the ujigatana, the iato, the washing pole, Velka's rapier, the crescent axe, the stone greatsword, the black knight great axe, the dragon great axe, the blacksmith giant hammer, the hammer of Vamos, the Grant, the Dragon Tooth, the Channeler's Trident, the Silver Knight Spear, the Giant's Halberd, the Titanite Catchpole, the Dragon Slayer Greatbow, and our final upgrade of new game, Goff's Greatbow. The final thing we do on our new game journey is take down Gwyn, and we head on to New Game Plus. There's not a ton to do here in New Game Plus, but let's run through the errands that we do need to go ahead and complete. One is pick up another katana or different weapon class that can be upgraded into the Chaos Blade. I chose the Uji Katana. Go ahead and kill Quelaag for the second time to be able to get that upgrade that we just mentioned. Go ahead and kill the Stray Demon for another guaranteed Titanite slab. Go ahead and kill the Iron Golem so that we can ascend a weapon into the Dragon Bone Fist. Similarly, kill Ornstein last so that we can ascend something into the Dragon Slayer Spear. And because, for whatever reason, the Blacksmith Hammer is a normal upgrade weapon path, we have to go and pick up the Large Ember from the depths. Pick up another copy of the Great Scythe because, again, we ascended our first one into the Life Hunt Scythe. We also have to stop by and kill Gwendolyn again so that we can ascend something into the Dark Moon Bow. And now that I have mentioned all of those weapons, let's head over to the Giant Blacksmith and acquire all of those weapons. I realized I still had one more boss weapon, so I had to go ahead and kill Sif so that we can ascend another weapon into the Greatsword of Artorias, the one that we did not get in the first cycle. And again, let's upgrade some weapons that use Demon Titanite. First is the Great Lord Greatsword, then the Chaos Blade, the Dragon Slayer Spear, the Dragon Bone Fist, and the Dark Moon Bow. We make yet another stop in New Londo to pick up the very large Ember. Let's shoot through these boss soul weapons. We got the Great Lord Greatsword, the Chaos Blade, the Dragon Slayer Spear, the Dragon Bone Fist, and the Dark Moon Bow. We do the Mailbreaker, the Rapier, the Estoc, Ricard's Rapier, the Hand Axe, the Battle Axe, the Butcher Knife, the Gargoyle Tail Axe, the Great Axe, the Demon's Great Axe, and the Club. I also remember to go and see Quelano so that we can ascend our Pyromancy Flame all the way up to a +5 Ascended Flame. We go through all of the rigmarole again, doing 2 more new game cycles so that we can upgrade the Mace, the Morning Star, the War Pick, the Pickaxe, the Blacksmith Hammer, the Large Club, the Great Club, the Demon's Great Hammer, the Spear, the Wing Spear, the Partisan, the Four-Pronged Plow, the Pike, the Halberd, the Lucerne, the Scythe, the Gargoyle's Halberd, the Great Scythe, the Whip, the Notched Whip, the Guardian Tail, the Cestus, and the Claw, all to +15. That includes the Short Bow, the Composite Bow, the Long Bow, the Black Bow of Ferris, the Light Crossbow, the Heavy Crossbow, the Sniper Crossbow, and finally, after acquiring and maxing out every single weapon in the entire game, our final playtime is 60 hours, 27 minutes, and 2 seconds. Oh boy, what a journey, huh? That was very interesting to do. Honestly, I thought it was going to take me quite a bit longer to get everything as I run through every single weapon that we have, showing that I have acquired all weapons, all 108 weapons, all 11 bows, and all 19 catalysts, which include Talisman, Catalyst, and the Pyromancy Flame. Again, you know, you have to take into account the fact that we did do some save, backup, and restoration in order to get some Titanite slab drops from the Crystal Lizards, but still, I'm pretty happy with my time. I think that we could probably do it a little bit quicker. The real key component is actually not the Titanite slab, it is the Titanite chunk farm. Because you cannot purchase those from anywhere in the game, your best bet is either the Dark Wraiths or the Black Knights on your approach to the Kiln of the First Flame. Again, you need so many of those, and just going through over and over and over and over and over and over again, killing so many different enemies, does eat away at your sanity just a little bit. But again, I'm very happy with my time. I think if somebody was truly dedicated, you could probably cut this down below 50 hours if I had to guess, as my route was certainly not the most optimal. One last thing before we go, let's run through every single copy of the Dark Hand that we got. Again, we had one from joining the Dark Wraith Covenant, but after all of my farming, I ended up with a total of 74 Dark Hands. At the rate of 0.0398 or 4%, if you will, You get one for roughly every 25 dark rays you kill. I would say that doing some math, we probably killed somewhere between 1,800 and 1,900 dark rays in our journey. Honestly, didn't feel like that many. I watched both seasons of Invincible during my time, caught up on a couple of other TV shows and streams that I had been wanting to watch. So, you know, if you're doing this, first of all, I probably would not recommend doing it, as it's, I wouldn't say a pointless endeavor, but I don't really know if it is worth your time. It was kind of interesting to do at some points, but kind of interesting not to do. But all in all, I set out to accomplish what I had originally wanted to do whenever I had this idea pop up in my head. If you enjoyed this, thank you so much for spending your time checking this video out. If you want to see me do this in other Soulsborne games, please let me know in the comments below. And just make sure that they won't test my sanity. I loathe the idea of doing this in Elden Ring, where there are over 300 weapons and you can't farm any ancient dragon smithing stones or somber ancient dragon smithing stones. Until next time, again, thank you so much for watching. If you like this, feel free to leave a like, a comment, or a subscription. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.